Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I'm Jim Punzenberger, your host and creator of the Managed Prospecting System. And this episode just happens to be brought to you by managedprospectingsystem.com. It's the three pillars I built to help you with generating new clients: authority content, LinkedIn outreach, targeted email, all done for you every week. So check out managedprospectingsystem.com after the show. And today I'm excited to have Armando with me. He's the founder of Spotlight Studio AI in Santa Cruz, California. He builds AI voice receptionists without a dev team, no custom code, no builder, a platform, and an AI named Anna who answers calls for you. Takes the leads, does qualifications, and also books appointments for service businesses. Armando, welcome to Profits of IT. Feel free to say hi to the audience.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello. Hi, everyone.
So, Armando, uh, I like to talk about a truth bomb. This is something that most people would find shocking in the industry. And you said that yours is building a working AI voice agent is 90% workflow logic, calendar routing, and prompt design. The model is the LLM, it sounds like, is the easy part. Explain that to the MSP owners listening and that may think it's AI is all about the LLM.
No, I think the LLM is great, but I think it needs guidance, and the model can only go as far as you guide it to. So if you connect it to the correct calendar settings, if you configure it to do follow-ups, if you configure it to focus on a certain intro when it speaks to customers, that warms up situation a lot. I've seen cases where people call this agent and the agent is just silent, so the person doesn't even know, what to ask, and so I think one thing that I recently upgraded my receptionist to do is to basically give a warm intro and set the expectations and the tone for the users, rather than waiting to see what they're going to say. 'Cause, ultimately, it's all about the customer.
Hmm. And you also mentioned that you don't need a big dev team to develop AI. You built this all by yourself. How do you do that without anybody else?
Well, so we have a few different tools. I did test 11 Labs and other type of services that enable voice and responses. And in this case, I use Go High Level. Go High Level happens to have the correct infrastructure to allow you to provide a training file. And then, of course, the training file is only as good as the content that you give it. And so what happens is if you have a well-documented website, you give it the website and you give it instructions to basically understand it and memorize the website, then you will know what to give. But if the website is not correct, then that's also a problem. So I mean, the tools are there, but we still need to do the diligence and be clear and concise and thorough so that these services function. In my case, I didn't have to write a line of code, but it doesn't mean that I don't have to know how code works. I mean, there are still certain aspects of coding, like how files communicate to each other, the fact that, if something is covered by the platform you're using, you have to connect to another service, via API or MCP. I mean, there's a certain number of knowledge that you do have to have, like at least foundationally, not just the language of the programming, right?
Got it. So let's shift gears here a moment, and I'd like to ask about what I call superpowers, something that you typically do better than most people in the industry, and that's contribute to your success. And when we talked earlier, you mentioned that yours is building and debugging AI systems live in production and without needing a dev team behind you to do it. Walk me through what that looks like and what happens when a real call comes in and something goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the testing has to be done up front. I mean, to be honest, even my system right now, that is live, and I am here sharing that you can call it. Like it covers, let's say, a vanilla scenario, but there are certain setups that require additional work. For example, somebody just talked to me about building this very system into a taxi dispatch service, and so you can only imagine that's not just the model talking, right? It needs to know which of the drivers are available at which hours, who is currently doing a service, and who is sitting idle. So a lot of this knowledge the model will not know. And so for every type of service, you need to be honest or be aware, that it requires covering multiple corner cases, testing them, debugging them, and then doing them. But it doesn't mean that you have to write code for it. It's just the planning and the orchestration of all these cases, then we should account for, even if you do it only with, dialing with the AI.
That makes sense. And what does uh, theory-based testing? You mentioned that when we talked, theory-based testing for AI voice agents. Tell me more about that and what the audience should know about theory-based AI testing.
I think it's important to put them in real case scenarios. And so if you have like you're about to launch, maybe you tested with a few customers and make sure that the dialogues are on point and that the system has the training to handle certain questions, right? Like the one that I created, is only for my business, and I gave it to people to talk to it, and somebody said, "Oh, hey, can you get me some food?" Which is like completely unrelated. It's like not something somebody's gonna call my business and ask for because we're not a restaurant. But yet the AI needs to be able to know, how to handle that. Basically, be polite and say, "Oh, I'm glad, it's about lunchtime. I'm sure there are great options around, but for now, I can refer you to a quick update on our service so we can get you lunch. Like be able to have this jovial approach to almost any question is what it is. The first AI that I built, it was very structured. It was before the modern models today. And we used to structure these questions in a very systematic way with something called API.ai, where it was basically a really rigid structure, and people got frustrated because they didn't know which option to take. That was not the right menu. Go back to the previous menu, and that's what we already overcame. And with the current AI, back then, I actually connected to ChatGPT to handle only corner cases. And so if somebody said, "Hey, like, who is your father?" And the AI will be like, "Oh, Armando Building." But these are things that it knows from common sense rather than a structured dialogue logic.
Uh-huh. Got it. So, Armando, um, tell us more specifically about Anna and how the audience could leverage Anna for themselves.
Right. So Anna is a demo. Anna is currently essentially my voice receptionist for my studio. And so she's trained to explain about the services that we offer. And so if you call the number, it will tell you what you need. And, we don't only offer, this AI receptionist. My background is in user experience design and research. And so there's a gamut of services that we offer, but the voice receptionist is the latest that we're focusing on. And so this is just a way for customers to learn like what they can also get, just like Anna. They can get their own receptionist, name it themselves, give it a personality, give it a tone, and give it instruction. And so Anna is basically how you see the actual product working live. And then we capture a lead along the way because by talking to it, you already have her ask you, your name and email and contact information. And so that builds a list of prospects.
Cool. And what's if somebody would be interested in learning more, what would be a good way for them to do that?
Well, the website that we're posting right now is ai.spotlightstudio.org. I mean, we can share this, along the comments or where this gets posted. It's gonna drop
Sure.
into.
Check the if you're
Yes,
listening, check the show notes below.
yeah. So I'll post that, and I'll post the phone number as well. But I think it's easier for the audience viewing this on a device, you just click the link, and when you go to the link, there's a picture of a phone with Anna in it, and you just have to click the button, and it has a hook that triggers a call, and then you get the real experience right there and then. You don't have to go further. I will explain that that particular site gives you the cost of not having an automated assistant because many industries have reported losses in customers and by missing calls, and so it gives you calculations for dentists, for restaurants, for other industries, and what we know statistically to happen. And you can also plug your own numbers and say, here's a calculator of how many calls I missed last week, and what does that represent for me around the year for the whole year.
Cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so look for the link in the show notes. And well, Armando, thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to following more of your content. Please follow us here in this podcast. I'm happy to be here. I will follow it myself, and please reach out um, for our receptionist, Anna.
Well, thank you. And as you said, Armando, AI agents are 90% workflow and 10% model. ManageProspectingSystem.com works the same way. The system behind your pipeline matters more than any single tool. 3 pillars done for you every week. Check out ManageProspectingSystem.com, build the workflow, and then the results will follow. Until next time, I'm Jim Punzenberger. Stay hydrated and caffeinated. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Jen.